guys join me for our regular Wednesday night devotional. And when it comes to storytelling, we all have somebody in our family that always tells the same story over and over again, right? Either it's a funny story. I know in my family we didn't tell a lot of stories. Usually, if we told stories, it was around a campfire, and that's why I kind of sat around the fire tonight to tell you guys a story. But usually, you hear around the campfire, and there's always something special to the story. There's always a point to the story. And so when Jesus talked to his disciples, or anybody that he came in contact with, a lot of times he told a story. A lot of times he would be a storyteller to people. Because that was the easiest way to communicate to somebody and tell them about something that was going on, something that was on your heart. And Jesus brought a lot of people to him that were not typical Christians or typical followers of Jesus or didn't act religious. A lot of the Pharisees and the Sadducees made fun of the people that hung around Jesus. Say, oh, the sinners and the people who are unclean hang around him. And that happened numerous times. And so Jesus attracted those people with his storytelling. Much like sometimes you'll sit around the table with people that you don't even know. Sit by a stranger and they'll start telling a story and you feel like you get to know them a little bit better. And Jesus had a way with his words. He was soft with his words. See, he told this one story here, and I'm going to read it to you guys. It's in Luke chapter 15 here. And this is after he talks about the lost coin, and he talks about a shepherd who loses his sheep. And then he talks about this lost son. I'm going to read you the story. Then he said, there was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, Father, I want right now what's coming to me. So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all his money, there was a bad famine all through the country, and he began to hurt. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to the fields to slaughter the pigs. He was so hungry that he would have eaten the corn cobs and the pig slop, but no one gave him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, all my farm hands, working for my father, sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me as a hired hand. He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, though, his father saw him, his heart pounding. He ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started to speak. Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to his servants, quick, bring a clean sheet of cloth and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead, and now he's alive. Given up for lost, and now he is found. And they began to have a wonderful feast and a wonderful time. All this time, the older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in and he approached the house. He heard the music and the dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on. He told them, your brother has come home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound. The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, look how many years I've stayed here, serving you, never giving you one moment of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then his son of yours, who has thrown away your money on whores, shows up, and you go all out with the feast. His father said, son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time. We have to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost. He's found. See, the story is a story we hear all the time. And a story we don't think about much other than about salvation, because that's usually when we hear about it. But I want to kind of bring you to a new perspective of Jesus was talking to a bunch of sinners. He was talking to a bunch of unclean people who didn't look the part, that didn't do the things that their Father has asked them for their whole life. You know what it's like to walk into a church, and if you're a sinner, and see all the people who are in nice clothes, who know how to pray, who know how to stand at certain times in worship service, you kind of feel like an outsider. And don't get me wrong, sometimes as Christians, we see those who walk inside the church, and we instinctively know they're not saved or they're not a Christ follower just because the way they hold themselves. And we start to judge, right? Sometimes we start to judge them. See, when I hear the story that Jesus told, the sinners are thinking in their head, you know, I know where Jesus is going with this. Okay, the son's going to come back and he's going to repent. And the good part, it's going to be a good story because they're probably thinking in their mind, the Father's going to let him become a hired hand or a servant and then feed him. And that would have been a good thing because he would have paid a consequence of what the things he did was wrong. But that's not the way Jesus told the story. And Jesus told it in a whole different way where he says he welcomed him. His Father embraced him. He ran out to him. He wanted him back. You know, when I think about the story, usually whenever somebody tells you a story, there's a moral to the story, right? You know, the moral of the story with the rabbit and the turtle, you know, the rabbit and the turtle, where the rabbit takes a rest while during the race and the turtle keeps walking, you know, slow and steady wins the race, right? And there's usually a moral to the story. And the moral to the story of Jesus, what he is trying to tell the people who are listening, is you don't have to be that person. You can come to me any way that you want to come to me. And when I listen to this story about Jesus, I think, who am I in this story? Who are you in this story? Are you maybe that prodigal son who goes out and now you're coming back to God and you just don't know where to pick up at? Or are you the good son who does everything right? And now you have a little bit of jealousy in your heart. Pray about it. Think about it. Think about how God can transform you through the story. I'm praying for you guys. And tonight we're going to meet again on Zoom at 7:30. So I hope to see you guys soon.